object-oriented programming, OOP. Here, that the important concept, of course, that the programming paradigms and the programming paradigms are different ways or styles in which a given program or programming language can be organized. It is also a very important topic in software development. Paradigm can also be termed as the method to solve some problem or do some task. And programming paradigm is an approach to solve problem here, approach to solve problem. Using some programming language also, or also we can say it is method to solve a problem using how you are going to solve the problem. It is approach about it, using tools and techniques that are available to us following some approach. And here, of course, that you can take some much more detailed information about programming paradigms. There are 6, 7 programming paradigms in some resources, 6, 7, or some of them also that add some other paradigms. But here, actually, we are going to focus on object-oriented programming paradigm. And of course, another important programming paradigms is procedural-oriented programming paradigms. Let's take a look a little bit about procedural-oriented programming paradigms, and then we are going to focus on object-oriented programming paradigms. Procedural programming paradigm here that we solve problem in functions, and then we call the functions, and then we solve the problem. In procedure-oriented programming paradigm, series of computational steps are divided modules, its functions, which means that the code is grouped in functions and the code is serially executed step by step, so basically. And it combines the serial code to instruct a computer with each step to perform a certain task, each function, and that is solve and execute a certain task. And then, yes, you combine them, and then, yeah, you solve your problem, that you solve the task. Yes, there are some advantages, of course, and disadvantages, of course, using procedural programming paradigms. Some of important advantages are general purpose programming and code reusability and portable source code. And some disadvantages, it is, yeah, we can say some maybe can happen some problem about data protection and not suitable for real world objects. And yeah, sometimes that we can say that the harder to write it is disadvantage, some important disadvantage of the procedural programming paradigms. And now let's take a look at object-oriented programming paradigms that we are going to focus on. And here, the object-oriented programming paradigm, objects here are the key elements of the paradigms. Objects that we are going to create first classes, and then we are going to create objects. And yes, we are going to solve the problems using objects. And objects can simply be defined as the instance of a class. It is also an important key term, instance of a class that contains both data members. It means fields or variable that basically we can understand it is class variables and the class methods actually. The object approach is particularly useful when applied to big and complex projects carried out by the large teams and consisting of many developers. Here you can see we are going to create first class, and then we are going to create our objects from class. It will be instance of a class. Each object will be instance of a class, and each one has, of course, that to be used first class. It will access to data and the functions, of course, here that we are going to use. Here that both data members will contain data members and, of course, class methods. It is, and of course that, yes, it is also that we are going to create more objects from the classes. We can create. And some important advantage to using object-oriented programming paradigm that it is a relation with the real-world entities, and code reusability also very important, and the abstraction and data hiding. Here it is very important, data security. Encapsulation, it is another that the term is encapsulation here, important. Data security, it is related to data security. And inheritance, of course, it is very important here in object-oriented programming paradigm, that the important advantage. And disadvantages are some of them. It is not suitable for all kind of problems that we can say. And yeah, it is, yeah, in some resources, it is also taken by resources that the slow speed, it is another disadvantage about object-oriented programming paradigm. But we are going to focus on object-oriented paradigm, and it is very convenient to create, of course, objects. And as we said here, that the relation with the real-world entities, it is very important. And yes, here that the procedural programming is about writing procedures or methods that perform operations to the data, while object-oriented programming is about creating objects that contain both data and methods. Yeah, object-oriented programming has several advantages over procedural programming. OOP is faster and easier to execute. OOP provides a clear structure for the programs, and OOP helps to keep the C# code dry. It is also a concept of the clean code. Don't repeat yourself. And makes the code easier to maintain, modify, and debug. And also OOP makes it possible to create full reusable application with less code and shorter development time is another important advantage over procedural programming. And the important terms and keywords in object-oriented programming, it is class and objects, methods that the constructor, another one variable scopes, this keyword that we can use, static keyword, term base, you mean it's superclass in Java. Super here in C# is base. And it is the parent class. For example, parent class, it will be base class for us. And the inheritance, it is important topic that we are going to discuss about these topics in next week. Polymorphism is another important properties of the object-oriented programming. Encapsulation, it is totally related to data hiding and security. Abstract class and methods, also we are going to discuss in next week. Interface and overloading and overriding is another important keywords in or topics in object-oriented programming.